ready now. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny June. I am a certified child and family sleep consultant, lactation counselor, pre and postnatal stress management coach, former doula. I'm a mother of 4 grown children and a mother of a 1-year-old grandbaby. That's her birthday's today. Happy birthday, baby Addie. And today we're going to talk about newborn sleep. Facts, myths, and some tips. So I'm really glad you joined me today. We're going to get down to some good information that I think, if you're pregnant in your 3rd trimester, you're concerned about sleep. That's always, the big scary talk in the mom circles is, what is your baby? It's always the first question too that you get asked typically after you have a baby is, how are they sleeping? And some of you already are in the trenches with your little newborn, your little baby infant, and maybe it's not going so well and you'd like to know, what can be done, if anything, and how to do it and how to be safe at the same time. So we're going to discuss all those things. We're going to get down to even some product talk. I've had lots of good questions thrown my way this last week, requests for different components of this topic to be discussed, and I'd like you to keep putting your comments below and asking your questions and telling your stories and just say hi. I'd love to just, chat with you guys as we're going through these things. So thank you everybody for joining me. I see Mark and Iari and Amy and a bunch of my friends joining me today. Thank you so much, you guys. All right, so let's get started. First and foremost, babies are not born with a circadian rhythm. That means they're not born with the ability to produce melatonin, which is that important sleep hormone, on a timed basis. So, when I hear, questions about sleep training newborns and such and doing it right out of the chute, there's books out there that tell you to get right to it as soon as you get home from the hospital, all of that. I'm going to ask you to just put all that aside, because it is not in alignment with sleep science. And it's also not in alignment with cultivating a positive and secure attachment with your young baby. And sleep training on any level, behaviorally, can really be counterproductive in a lot of different important ways. And it's not effective. It may work for a hot minute, but babies just aren't able to do what we're asking them to do at that age. But I'll tell you what they can do, when they can do it, and how you can actually shape and improve the conditions of sleep so that you are cultivating good sleep skills in a healthy, safe way that still supports secure attachment and positive breastfeeding behaviors or breast milk supply should you choose to breastfeed. So here we go. All right, so 6 weeks, here's the light at the end of the tunnel. At 6 weeks old, and this is about the time that you start seeing social smiles on your baby. They're actually smiling at you because they're happy to see you, and it's not gas. So that's really the time that we start seeing, the night sleep being more consolidated at night in nice, little bit bigger chunks at night, rather than that day and night confusion where sleep is all over the place and they don't know the difference between nighttime and daytime, and you're up all hours of the day and night. And oftentimes if you've got a colicky baby, which 1 in 4 babies is, exhibits those symptoms of colic, those little kiddos are often very confused up until that point of 6 weeks where they're up all night long and they're acting like it's daytime out and we're just, miserably tired. And that's when I get a lot of emails from families all over the country, all over the world, asking me to help them sleep train because they are so miserably exhausted. So I just beg you to hang on until 6 weeks, properly dated. That means from your child's due date, not their birth date. If your child was born prior to full term, even a 1 or 2 weeks, you want to wait an additional couple of weeks for that development of their brain, that circadian rhythm to kind of come along a little bit more. So when I talk about age and weeks and all of that, I'm talking about from the due date, not the birth date. That's called properly dated. All right, so with that said, that's the light at the end of the tunnel, is looking for those social smiles, those little chunks of consolidated sleep at night. That just means that their circadian rhythm is underway in development, and that will give you a little hope to hang in there. And in the meantime, gosh, you guys, do whatever you gotta do just to survive. Get lots and lots of help. This should be something that we should have a special baby shower for, just kind of like the sleep survival baby shower. And I thought about doing a show on that. I think that's what I'm gonna do. It should be a special thing that your community, your village that you've been kind of, corralling and cultivating, getting ready for the, preparation of this child to come, really start talking about, hey, when I get into the weeds here with the sleep, Do you think maybe you could, sign up for this little task or this little chore or this little helpful thing that, and don't be afraid to ask for help. It's so much better than doing things that aren't really healthy or safe for baby when they're young. And you'll be glad that you did and that you kind of enlisted some help in advance. All right, so that's that for that. And then 16 weeks is when we start to see, 16 weeks old, 4 months, that's when we start to see nighttime circadian rhythms, come into development. This is when the brain matures and we can start seeing, the baby can start experiencing the slow wave component of a sleep cycle. And this is really, really important. This is when we actually can officially, medically, and with benefits that make sense and that are in alignment with development, we can start allowing the child to consolidate sleep at night and consolidate calories during the day. Slow wave sleep is when that brain shrinks a little bit and a special fluid kind of rushes through and it clears out the waste and the toxins and stress that build up on that organ, just like the lymphatic system does for all the other vital organs of our body. That is a very important component of the sleep cycle, and now it's the first time the child can really get that component. And when they do, when we get that slow wave component of our sleep cycles, we don't feel teething pain and we don't feel hunger. That's a medical fact. And so it helps us even to better discern the difference between tears of temporary struggle while they're learning, to adjust to this new stage of development versus tears of suffering, which we always immediately respond to. So that can be helpful in your discernment as a parent and how to properly respond and support your child as they enter into this new stage and their brain is ready to go. Now, from that prior to that point, from newborn to 16 weeks, this is really where we want to be fostering secure attachment, respond to them on demand, feed them on demand, really protect that breast milk supply and those positive breastfeeding behaviors. We really want to make sure that we're creating a good foundation of trust from which we can later on teach. That's really the importance of having a good, secure attachment with your child. That's the nuts and bolts of it, really, so that when we do enter into these other seasons of parenting where we have to teach and we have to hedge them in with health and safety boundaries and help them learn to adapt to change and all of those things that, sometimes require a little bit of struggle in the process, we want to make sure that they feel secure and safe and supported. So, newborn to 16 weeks, really focus on that. And the reason why, by the way, their sleep is so crappy in the meantime is because it's designed to be that way. It's protective. Their sleep is designed to be light and active and sporadic and disorganized and all over the place, so that they can easily resuscitate themselves should their physical vitals fall below normal in this fragile fourth trimester of life. And so be really mindful of that. Respond to that baby on demand and sleep in close proximity with them as recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. And that, can be room sharing with a crib in the room or a bassinet next to the bed. But we don't want to do any bed sharing, as that can be very unsafe. It's one of the leading causes of death for children under a year old is, accidents that happen around sleep. And it's typically when, we're sharing the same sleep space, the same bedding. Here in the United States, most of us have pillow top mattresses and we've got, fluffy blankets and pillows and all those things. And that can spell disaster. It's an unsafe environment for any baby under a year old to sleep in. So, bust out the bassinet, get the crib in the room if you like, and sleep in close proximity and room share instead. And that's a really important safety measure. Now, behavioral sleep training methods. I'm going to say this again. Don't do any of that until their brain is actually developed enough to be able to do what we're asking them to do. And that's where you're also really going to want to build a foundation of sleep hygiene. My trademark 4 pillars of sleep hygiene really set a child up for success. And in fact, it really can shape the sleep so that you may not even need to enlist any behavioral sleep training methods in the first place. And so what it really does is just, helps you to support your child with solid sleep science. The sleep environment is the first pillar. The knowing what sleep cues really are when melatonin, that sleep hormone we talked about earlier, is elevating in the system and when it's left the building. the difference between those cues. And it's a brief window, like 10 to 15 minutes, when those important hormones are elevating. That's the time when you really want to be finished with your, feeding, with your pre-sleep routines, and already be laying your child down in the proper sleep environment, to do the sleeping for the naps or the bedtime. And that will really foster things along. And that doesn't require any crying or tears at all, which is wonderful. And then, of course, the third pillar is those pre-sleep routines. They are powerful tools if they are performed correctly. They serve two important functions. They kickstart that melatonin production, and they signal to the brain and body that sleep is about to come, which is also the essence of routine and what provides a foundation of emotional well-being for your child. So we need those to be brief and predictable. Same thing in the same exact order of things. And the fourth pillar is the timing of sleep. And like I said, timing is really going to kick in when they, get to 16 weeks, and their melatonin can be is produced on a time basis, and we can start syncing their sleep with their natural biological rhythms, which is what helps them get that slow wave component of their sleep cycles. I'm also going to give you a little hot tip on this. When they do hit 16 weeks, sleep really should not be mobile at that point. Sleep that is mobile, the brain in motion, cannot get that slow wave component of a sleep cycle. But in the meantime, up until that point, that newborn stage, that very frustrating, those sleepless nights, do whatever it takes. Baby carriers. Oh my goodness. I wore all 4 of my babies, and I had them back to back. And boy, I was a tired mama, but, because a couple of them didn't sleep very well. I was in the trenches with 2 of them. And that was back in the 90s. But I just kind of aged myself. But, baby carriers were kind of just coming out. And boy, I had one in the front. I had one on a back carrier at the same time. I had a couple hanging off my legs, but just do whatever you got to do to survive the sleep deprivation, but do it in a safe way. Baby carriers are great tools. Those little sleep pods and things that babies sleep in, those are great, but make sure that if they're in those, that you are right there with them. So they're, if you're taking a break and you're catching up on your Netflix, it's time for baby to take a nap. Make sure that they're right there next to you when sleeping in those kind of fluffy sleep pod type little things, because those, they are not they're not within the guidelines and recommendations of a safe sleep environment that the AAP would recommend. The surfaces are not hard and flat, or firm and flat, and there's cushion all around the sides. It really looks like a crib bumper, which we all know are now unsafe for babies. So if you are going to put your baby in one of those to just survive the moment and it takes the edge off, do so when you are right there with your child. Do not place those in your crib or leave your child unattended napping or sleeping when they're in those things. Another thing is, I'm asked a lot about some of those gimmicky bassinets and, that move and make noise and do all these woo-woos, kind of thing, and they're expensive. Listen, if you've got money, to do that, to just kind of, for a 3-month fix, because, usually after about the 3rd, 4th month, you want to stop all movement. You want to get those, stimulating sounds and things that are counterproductive to sleep kind of, out of the picture, so that you can foster good sleep skills. So if you can afford those and they take the edge off for you, awesome, but you don't need them, and they're very expensive. So, but whatever you got to do to survive, guys, just do it safely. And let's see, what else? Swaddles, they can be helpful too, but you want to make sure that you're safely swaddling. Don't do it too tight. We don't want to suppress that moral reflux too much, because again, that's what helps to, resuscitate your child should those physical vitals fall below normal in that fragile newborn state, that, first, 3-4 months. So just kind of lightly swaddle them and give them that little, sense of, cocooning a little bit, but don't overheat them. Don't do it too tightly. Very important. All right. So, and yes, Matt is chiming in. She said, perfect consistency. Amen, girl. You've been here. You're my friend. You know about my love for consistency. It's everything. I love that you said that. Thanks for keeping me on track. Yeah. I take for granted that, that's just something we're going to, all do. But babies really do need that consistency. It's really important to make sure we're setting them up for success and we're being responsive, but be careful and really think through when you are tempted to get reactive, because that's where things get off track a little bit and on a slippery slope, and all of a sudden we're stuck in a cycle that we can't get out of. And, you know, even to the point where sleep gets much worse and we're slapping Band-Aids on things and even doing things that aren't really safe, things we never really intended on doing, just to get some sleep for ourselves and survive the sleep deprivation ourselves. And we've all been there, so no judgment on that. But that's really important. Thanks for reminding us about that, Matt. All right, let's see what else we have here. All right, so just, you know, be mindful of those American Academy of Pediatrics safe sleep guidelines. They're updated every few years, and a few years ago they were updated again. You know, so check those out. Go on the website there, American Academy of Pediatrics. .org, and look at those recommendations. Again, we want a firm surface, flat surface, and we want just nothing in that sleep environment but a tightly fitted crib sheet. You know, just really, and that's it. Get rid of the bumpers. There's not even a recommendation for those breathable bumpers, because those can, you know, we can get tangled up in those, and, you know, so it's not a breathing issue. It's more of an, you know, accidental strangulation thing that can happen. All kinds of potential disasters when we add anything to that crib other than a firm, you know, flat sleep environment. And those wedges too, guys, those, you know, those things we kind of put in there to kind of position our baby, those positioners, oh, please keep those out of the crib. Those can be dangerous as well. And once they hit that 4-month mark, that's when we really want to start eliminating the mobile and you know, that kind of thing. And don't put your baby monitor on the crib railing. That little cord, they can just pull that, they can grab that accidentally, and that's another potential strangulation hazard. So make sure you're properly mounting that that baby monitor on the wall or on, you know, a dresser, kind of, you know, out of arm's reach for that baby to accidentally, you know, grab that and pull that thing in. We want to be 2 steps ahead of our baby with safety, not just 1. All right, let's see. Is there any other questions or tips? Erin has a question. Any tips for breaking a pacifier sleep prop dependency? All right, so this is when it comes to newborn sleep, Erin, that's a really good question. Okay, so it depends on how old your child is and what kind of dependency we've got going on, because, you know, we want to kind of postpone pacifiers until we have established positive breastfeeding behaviors, and, you know, that latch is going well and everything's, you know, the baby's kind of beyond that 6-week point. Then you can start introducing that pacifier and not have to worry about that compromising other things. And the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends using a pacifier for at least the first 6 months to help prevent you know, those the accidental crib death or SIDS. So beyond that, and Erin, you clarified, I should say she's 6 months. Okay, perfect, Erin. All right, so listen, here's 2 things you can do. I mean, it's really something to think about to, you know, start, you know, eliminating the pacifier, and you can do that gradually or you could do it cold turkey. As long as you're setting them up for success with a good foundation of sleep where those hormones are elevated at sleep onset, and those 4 pillars of sleep hygiene will do that. That'll help your child fall asleep easier and faster and fall asleep deeper, where, you know, they won't need the crutches. Their sleep won't be as fragmented in the middle of the night with all those extra wake ups where you're needing to kind of do the work for them to get them to go back to sleep using a pacifier or breastfeeding or a bottle or holding or whatever that sleep crutch is. So, you know, always go back to those foundations. That's really important. But you can go cold turkey if you want to, and that usually takes about 2 nights and it's done. Or you can kind of gradually wean off. But what I like to do is just make sure that, you know, when you are at 6 months old and beyond, go ahead and pop that pacifier in there during the pre-sleep routine and help them relax, and, you know, let them kind of suck away on that while you're, you know, preparing for the time when you lay them down in their crib awake. It can be in their mouth when you lay them down, but once you leave the room and once that pacifier falls out, don't go back in and retrieve it and do the work for them to put it back in their mouth. 2 things will happen. Either your child, who maybe they are so like hot on that pacifier and they love it and they'll do anything for it, that provides the incentive for them to start rooting around and trying to find it for themselves and pop it back in their mouth, which they are totally capable of doing at even as young as 5 months old. Or they'll be like, it popped out. I'm kind of tired because mom set me up with all that good sleep hygiene. And I'm too lazy to put it back in. And, you know, mom's no longer doing that work for me. And, you know, I pulled all my best moves in here to try and get her to come in and do that. And, you know, no bueno. Not worth all the effort. Gosh, I'm tired. Screw this. I'm going to sleep. peace out. And then they start falling back asleep. So either they're going to be incentivized to find that pacifier and put it back in themselves, and you're no longer a slave to it, or once that pacifier falls out, once they, you know, after you've put them in the crib and you left the room, don't go back in and be a slave to that. And they'll just naturally, it'll start to wean right off. So those are two things that you can do. And it also depends on what kind of, you know, behavioral responses or methods that you've chosen to, you know, incorporate with some of the sleep, you know, issues. If you're going to be present for your child during the naps in some way, same thing applies. Don't do that work. Don't put it back in, you know, support them during the struggle, and there will be struggle because they're going to try and get you to engage and do the work for them again. You can soothe them in different ways, maybe some shush patting or whatever, but do everything but put that, you know, go back to using that sleep crutch. And then, you know, within just a couple of days, it, you know, they'll realize that, all right, say love you, it's, you know, and they'll give it up. So those are some tips for you there, Erin. Thank you for asking that really good question. All right, anybody else? Let's see. Erin is, I should say she's 6. Okay, so that was you, Erin, and then Kelly. Hi, Kelly. I'm glad you could join us. All right, guys. You know, that's about it. Actually, we're up for time, and I'm just looking at my clock, and time flies when we're having fun and having good discussion. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. I love when you hang out with me. I'm here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And if you have any further needs for, you know, maybe private services with me, if you want me to coach you through, set up a plan for you, you know, get you going on that really good 4 pillars of sleep hygiene, that is my secret sauce, you know, go to my website, jennijune.com. We'll put the link here in the comments below, and you can see my services and my pricing. You'll also find on my website some terrific baby care videos that, you know, really 26 episodes for baby's first year of life. That's really helpful for you new parents. I recommend you go there. They're like 3 minutes long a piece. You know, I try to incorporate some humor and some personal stories about my experiences with my 4 kids when they are little. And, you know, they are really going to help you survive, you know, all the little baby care things that you're going to come up against in the first year. Also, my blog page is there, and I've got some great tips for you with sleep there as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me again. We'll see you next week at 1 o'clock Thursday right here. Have a good week. Bye.